All right, welcome to another Dronecast. We have a special guest, James Fernandez, who is one of Sky Network's million-dollar dronepreneurs. So he's a drone commander. He's earned that prestigious title of building $1 million drone business. And James, I want to thank you for stopping by. I know you're super busy with I know people are saying that, oh, the drone business is slowing down and there's not money to make, but I think the opposite's going on from you. And so what I'd like to do is have you just first of all kind of tell everyone a little bit about yourself, and then also how this drone band, or as it's commonly referred to, the DJI band, even though it's not just DJI, it's every
Yeah.
foreign drone, but how has that affected you financially, your business, and what's the outlook coming forward? So that's what we'll get into. All right. So take it away, James.
All right. Well, Damon, thank you for having me here. It's always good to see you, even though it's virtually through the screen here. But
It's the
man,
next best
it's
thing, right?
yeah, yeah. It's amazing how technology has allowed us to kind of unite ourselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as you know, I've been a member of Sky Network since late 2017, and
You're OG, brother.
I'm OG. I love it. And yeah, listen, Sky Network, has been instrumental to the growth of my business, not just because of, everything you guys do, but mindset as well. And I think that has been crucial for what's going on now with this whole, drone DJI ban thing that's going on. And
That's
I've been pretty,
Can I
go ahead.
pause you there for a second? Because that brings up a good point. I think that, there's a lot of people out there that are just there. I mean, they're not going to admit it. No one says, "Oh, I need mindset, or I need confidence, or I need that," right? And especially guys, we're too ego proud to say that. But I think there's a lot to say for having a network because of successful drone entrepreneurs is that you've got people where you can see the real world results even when you have fear or doubt, or you get sucked into all the drama and the negative news that's out there, and the clickbait stuff and everything that's there. The crab's in the bucket because they'll just pull you down if you let them. But if you have other people around you that are X result, oh well, I'm busier than ever, I've got this new deal I've got, and you're like, huh, maybe it's me, maybe I need to change what I'm focusing on. And
Yeah, no
that's
doubt.
what you're doing exactly. I mean, we've got people like Eddie and Chris and Mark and James and Kevin and James too, that are actually getting real world results and getting busier. So I just wanted to, when you mentioned that, I just wanted to point that out, that if you're alone or you're by yourself, then that can create some issues,
Yeah,
right?
no doubt, no doubt. And that's one of the things I've learned over the years being in the network, and dealing with Gina and yourself is, don't get into that 10 finger spread,
Right.
as Gina calls it, and you learn how to manage that scary thought process that's going through your head by leaning on some of the members that are going through it, and you see quickly learn that it's not as bad as people are making it out to be. And this is a perfect case for that scenario, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think it totally is. So, you have some real world, I guess, stories to share, right? Of stuff that
Sure. Yeah.
recently. I'd love for you to share that with everybody, and kind of what's going on. Well, and first, before you do that, like, what's your overview on this whole drone ban, and as far as it affects your business and moving forward?
No, I think we're going to capitalize in it and just explode. It's going to be another growth spurt for us. Just because there are people freaking out, and case in point, the story I'm about to get into just happened this morning, where there's people bailing from the business because they're freaking out, and they're misinformed. So there's a lot of misinformation being spread out there. And I wasn't really going to get into it. I wasn't going to talk much about it on my social media platforms. But I think it's time we start educating the consumer as to what is actually going on so that, business continues to roll and grow. And in the short term, well, before we get into it, so that's my thought process on that, right? Um,
And when you said that you had a customer freak, or someone pulling out of it, you're talking about a drone service provider, right? A drone company they're basically going to stop providing drone services, go out of business.
Correct. Yeah, a real estate photographer. So just to get into the story, I had an old client call me this morning, freaking out because their new vendor uh, announced this morning that they were no longer going to be providing drone services in their real estate media packages, because all drones have been banned as of December 23rd. Drones are illegal. So obviously that set this client, who's got a big team, in a tailspin, and he decided to reach out to me to see what was going on. And so I educated him a little bit, and I told him, don't worry, it's business as usual. There are people freaking out because they're misinformed. And at the end of the day, that this drone ban, you want to call it whatever you want to call it at this point, um, really has no effect for any of us. It's just we continue. The drones we currently have aren't going to be shut down. They're not geofenced, so they won't turn on. They're not illegal to fly. It's another day in the office, another day cranking out work and capturing beautiful images for our clients. Long term, are there going to be some effects? Sure, I'm sure there are, but you have plenty of time to get ready for any of those long term effects that may pop up, and they may not. At some point, somebody's got to have some rational thought and say, "Wait a second, we may be screwing ourselves over by doing this," and it may change back to the way it was. And if not, there's plenty of options out there to keep your business up and running.
Yeah, yeah. And what do you see? So I'm going to give you my kind of 2 cents, and I'd love to hear yours. So, like for me, I always like to expect the best, prepare for the worst.
Sure.
So, I agree with everything you said, and I think, I think everyone's been lied to. That this is a drone ban. It's not a drone ban. A
Right.
ban is when you can't get anything anymore, like prohibition or or something like that, right? And that's not this. You can still get DJI drones. They can still be serviced and warranted and all that, and Autel and all these other drones. It's just any of the future FCC licenses. And I did a whole video. If anyone watching this wants to find out more about that, they can find out about it. But what I think in the future, because no new drones like we might not see a Mavic 5, we might, but we're probably not going to see a Mavic 6, and we're probably not going to see an Air 5S, and stuff like that. So at that point, which is probably 3, 4, 5 years down the road, for right now, you can buy a Mavic 4 Pro, you can buy a DJI Air 3S, and those are going to last you for the foreseeable future. 5 years, probably 4 years. And to your point, that if that happens, worst case scenario, and nobody wakes up, nobody gets any common sense, then none of this gets reversed. That gives US manufacturers 5 years to build something up to get as close as they can. Now, will it be as good or better than the Mavic 4 Pro? It should be, because they have that to start with, and they can steal the IP and copy it, and and make something better than that. But 5 years from now, DJI is going to have the Mavic 8, and that thing's going to be pretty impressive. So, worst case scenario, we're going to have to buy an American version of that might not be as good as whatever the latest and greatest at that time is, but it'll be better than what we have now. And
Sure.
pay a little more for it, but who
Yeah,
cares?
and to that point, I mean, that's one of the things I've been telling some colleagues that we've talked about this, behind the scenes, is at some point, one of these US based companies are going to realize that there is a huge market void that's going to happen now. And they're going to have to ramp up their prosumer market, which, let's face it, none of the US based companies are really focusing on that right now.
Not one of them. There's zero.
So, I mean, the closest one I think was SkyDuo, and then they pulled out of the consumer market,
Yeah.
which is a big mistake now that this is going on, right? Because they could have really exploded that whole market segment. So yeah, I think somebody's going to wake up and say, okay, let's start producing a consumer level drone.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. It's a huge void for someone that wants to take advantage of it. Okay, so what is this? So this client, and I think that's great, because it's a big opportunity for when you do have clients that are like, oh, can you do the drone services? And say, well, there's a lot of new rules, and there's a lot of regulation that's there. Most people aren't. I am, and we're going to continue to provide that. And there might be more regulatory stuff hoops we have to go through, and prices might increase, but we're going to do everything and anything we can to make sure we continue to provide services for you guys, right? Um,
100%. And that's one of the things that I'm kind of already planting the seed. Long-term effects, let's say, later on in the year, prices are going to have to go up for these services because, it's becoming more exclusive.
Yeah. Yeah. And supply and demand, right? We're seeing the demand go up even more and supply, which was increasing, but now it's starting to go back pretty much. And I know that we've had other Sky Network members that have had people reach out and say, hey, the stuff we were planning for Q3 and Q2, we want to get that done now in case it goes away. So they're doubling down on services that they would normally be
Yeah.
providing, which
Yeah,
is
100%. It was a great opportunity for me to get this phone call because this is a client that I lost over pricing. They wanted some cheaper, and I had this conversation. I always leave the door open. I'm like, we're all in business, and we're all looking to see how we can cut costs and generate a bigger profit. But to what extent do you want to risk the services that you're providing for your clients, right? Because he's providing a service also. And this was one of the things I warned him about. When you go cheap, those people are going to price themselves out of existence. And here's a perfect case where this new vendor came in and offered basically what our silver package is for real estate at less than what a basic HDR photo only package is that we charge, right? And this was 4 months ago. This happened, and so it didn't even last a year. So this was another opportunity to pick up that old client again and his team, which were, it's a decent sized client.
That's fantastic. And I think that's one of it's a hard lesson for them to learn, but the great news about this, especially for you, is that they got stung. I mean, not really bad because they had you in their back pocket, so they were only stressed out and freaked out about it a little bit. But they're going to remember that, and we see this happen all the time when people price themselves down because they'll price it down, they get the deal, and they're like, gosh, well, I can't pay an editor to do this. Or, I'm going to use these new AI editors, which in most cases they'll work for some stuff for social media, but professional photographs, not even close yet. And they're cutting corners, and the clients are seeing the results of it because, as you pointed out, they have clients and they notice the difference, and you start seeing the results. Where days on market were 71 days on market, you get involved, and then now all of a sudden they're 12 days on market. They hire someone cheaper. Days on market go back up to 30, 35 days on market.
Yeah.
Still better than where they were, but especially in real estate, 12 days on market is way better than 41, and even better than 30 and better than 20, right? Like that's all money.
And when
Faster.
you go into the luxury real estate market, it's even worse, right? Days on market are even longer.
Yeah.
So the media services are crucial for their marketing, and so yeah, yeah, 100%. You
Yeah.
know,
Awesome. Well, what else? I know you got to run, but what's anything that you want to share, or any parting words you want to add about the ban and how it's affecting you, or what people should maybe?
well, it's sure. I mean, is it affecting me? No. Is it going to affect any of our members? No, not in the short term, anyways. So now's a perfect opportunity for people in our business and our industry to start preparing in case it does down the road, and to start looking at some domestic drone options. Really, right now, the only contracts that are affected are federally funded projects. Um,
And
and
those have always been affected, right? I mean, those ever since the blue list came out, and then they changed it to the NDAA list and stuff. Those were always a temperamental area.
Right. Yeah. 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 So, I mean, listen, if that's going to be the standard moving forward, which we don't know at this point, right? Everything is still kind of fluid. If the blue list or the NDA compliant list is going to be the standard moving forward, well, maybe it's time for you to start preparing to acquire one of those drones. and there's many ways to do it. There's a lot of companies out there that'll finance it. Credit unions will finance it, or take this opportunity now to start putting aside some money from your monthly revenues so that later on down the year you could acquire one of these drones. Because listen, they're costly, but if that's the future, you got to invest in the future.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the thing that is nice about that is we have a good ramp up period, right? Where the
Yeah,
drones we have are still usable, and the reality, what's probably going to happen is we're going to start seeing if the U.S. government has really blocked out all foreign drones. And I think we're going to see all kinds of exceptions and stuff to that. But if that's really the case, it's going to create some really good competition on the U.S. side. So we're going to see a lot of U.S. drone manufacturers duking it out and coming out with better products and better products for lower prices for lower prices. So by the time most people have to actually invest in a U.S. based drone, um, we're going to have a lot different options, and I think the landscape's going to look radically different, than where it is now.
yeah,
But
yeah. And the
you
funny thing is that there's a lot of U.S. drone manufacturers that use foreign drone components.
like almost all of them, right? I don't think there's one U.S. drone manufacturer that uses all U.S. drone equipment, ESCs and motors and batteries
There,
and
there's one. The Free Fly is the only one. They manufacture everything
even the motors.
except the batteries.
Okay.
The batteries, they
Batteries and
buy the
motors.
components and then they assemble them in their factory. But yeah, that was one of the reasons why I ended up buying that drone, just to avoid any future issues.
Right, that come up with it. And again, I think and a point I want to make to everyone too is I what I'd encourage you to do is don't buy one of the drone that you don't need, regardless
Yeah,
of what it is, if you don't have it. Like James, when you could have bought that drone or a whole fleet of 100 of them, with the money you've made in your business, but you waited until you had a client that you had a contract and the client willing to pay you, essentially buy the drone for you. And then that's when you pulled the trigger and invested in that, and that was, do you mind sharing how much that drone was? Because it was a little more than an Air 3S.
it was $40,000.
Yep. For
Yeah,
that, but it was making money from day one, and that's the
yeah,
way you want to do it. Not the reverse, where you buy the drone, you spend 40 grand on a drone that may or may not ever make you money, hoping that you might get a client. You do
right.
it the other way.
And I bid on the contract without having the drone.
Right? Yeah. You don't.
And I made it very clear with the procurement guy is if I get awarded the contract, then I'll buy the drone because it didn't make any sense. You go out, oh yeah, well, I want to bid on this. I got to have this to bid on it. No, you don't. And this is a federal contract, so uh, just make sure everything is clear and upfront. You bid on it. You go through the process. You get that award letter, then you can go out and purchase a drone. Because if you don't get awarded, you just took out a loan to purchase a $45,000 drone. Now you're out that money. You still got to pay back that loan, and you have a drone that you may not use on a frequent basis because it's a big enterprise level drone.
Yeah.
So,
Like you're not going to take your free fly out to do real estate shoots, right?
no, definitely not. Just a quick point to that, Damon. I think you touched on a little bit about it a few minutes ago. Um, this whole ban BS, it has nothing to do with drones. It's about frequencies and radio stuff. So DJI has already approved patents for future products and future drones that are not going to be affected because they've already gotten those licenses approved.
Yeah.
So there's still going to be new products coming out to the market here in the US unless something changes from now to then. Um, DJI is pretty smart. They're not just going to walk away and not be able to. I mean, I think we are their biggest drone market globally
Yeah.
is
I've
the
heard that
US.
U.S. makes up like 40, close to 50% of their, of their revenue, which is huge. I mean, that's a massive piece of it. So yeah, they're not going away easily, and they've done everything they can to comply. But again, this whole thing is just a political thing, I
Yeah,
think.
100%, 100%. I agree with that 100%.
And
So
the good news about it that I've mentioned in some of my other videos is because it is political, it can easily be reversed and overturned. The analogy I like to throw out is with ATF and the the pistol braces. If
Yeah.
they've sold millions and millions of these pistol braces. They've been legal for years and no problem. And then all of a sudden the ATF says no more pistol braces. Anyone that owns one is a felon. And there's making millions of Americans felons. And then they got all kinds of flack, and it was the law, and people were freaked out, and people were throwing them away and giving them away, and just getting rid of them. And then all of a sudden, a year and a half later, however long it was, they just reversed everything. And it's like, okay, nothing to see
Yeah.
here. It's all back to normal. It's
Nothing
like,
happened. Nothing happened here. So yeah, 100%. I mean, and this is so. I mean, I think the moral of the story is, don't freak out. Go out there, do the do. Keep on growing your businesses, and don't pay any attention to the white noise that's going on.
yeah, I think that's sage advice, man. That's because so many people spend so much time. If they spent 10% of the time that they spend freaking out and watching videos and reading stuff and awfulizing, if they just spent 10% of that time actually growing their business or going out and meeting customers, their lives would be totally different, right?
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know, totally different. So, well, awesome, man. I so appreciate you stopping by and and sharing your wisdom and real world experience, because that's the thing I think people just don't know.
Yeah.
We're all scared of what we don't know. You know,
Sure. Yep.
so I think it's good to hear from what's happening to you in the real world, because you're out there doing it every day. So awesome stuff.
Thanks, bud.
Awesome, man. All right, we'll go hit it, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye, safe.
Bye.